Here's a little song about I'm going to Louisiana and get a little small Mojo hand for you. And I'm going to bring it back and be have it with you. I'm going to Louisiana, I'm gonna get me a Mojo hand. I'm going to Louisiana, boys, I'm gonna get me a Mojo hand. I just wanna fix my woman so she can have no other man. I lay down thinking, I was thinking about a Mojo hand. I lay down thinking, I was thinking about a Mojo hand. I wanna fix my woman so she can have no other man. Bed last night, rocked was my pillow too. Cold ground was my bed last night, baby, rocked was my pillow too. You know, I woke up this morning wondering what in the world am I going to do. I'm going in the morning, I won't be gone for long. I'm going in the morning, I won't be gone for long. I want to get my Mojo hand, I'm going to bring it back home. So, you just heard my version of Mojo Hands, also known as Going to Louisiana, by good old Lightning Hopkins here. And I tapped out the whole thing, the introduction, a verse with the lyrics written under it, and all the other verses are the same when it comes to that. And I also tapped out the 3 solos. And in the video description below here, you will find a link how to get that. Now, Lightning recorded this song many times. It became his signature song in the 60s and 70s. And my version is based on what he recorded for the Seattle Folk Society in the late 60s, the University of Washington. And there's a link in the video description below to that video so you can compare the versions. By the way, in that video he's tuned up to F. So I'm in standard tuning, but he's tuned up to F. I don't know why, but anyway, that's what happened. Now that version I think is his best version. He was in great form, couldn't resist the clowning. And I couldn't resist doing his spoken introduction, which was kind of funny. And what is important to know is that although Lightning uses the 12 bar form, he added several bars. And we usually think that he did that by accident, but not in this song. All the verses have the same structure and have the same mistakes, you could say, against the 12 bar structure. He added 2 bars just to be able to do those 2 bars with those upstrokes. Those are added after the first line of singing and after he came back to after the 4 chord when he goes to A. And I think it's essential part of the song. You can play it as a 12 bar blues, but then you don't gonna be able to do those 2 upstrokes in a row, because you will be singing in the 12 bar structure. So let's start with the introduction, which on the other hand is shortened. He starts playing and, well, he probably thought, well, I'm not gonna play 12 bars or even 15, and he shortened it. So let's do that. Now the song is in a shuffle rhythm and played with a shuffle in the bass, and there are 2 things that you have to take care of. In the video you will see that Lightning plays above the fretboard around here, and the reason is obvious. The strings are a bit more sloppy there, and you get a more percussive sound then. And also the position of the hands is easier to mute with the right hand, because he's not playing, he's muting after every hit. Maybe you can see it better like this. See my hand moving. That's very important to get that those single beats, they're not going over into each other. They're really separate, which is a good indication for dancers, because I think blues was mainly intended to dance to. Now, the muting we've done, but this part of your hands, very important, playing above the fretboard. And then we have those upstrokes. And there are 2 kinds, the one that sounds a bit longer and one that sounds a bit shorter. And usually he plays when he plays 2 in a row, the first one is long and the second one is short. And it's a combination of muting with your index finger of the left hand and the palm, because you want the strings to be muted when you're gonna attack the next beat in the bass. So practice that and you'll be fine. So let's do the introduction. I'm not really going to play it slow, because then you lose the rhythm. What you could do is use the YouTube slow down function. And if you're watching with a computer, in the right bottom corner of your screen you will find a little round cogwheel. If you click on that, you're going to see several options, and one of the options is speed. And you can reduce the speed to 75%, even 50%. And that's important, the pitch is kept, so you still hear what is really going on, but slowed down. So that's a good function. If you're watching with a phone or an iPad, I think it's in the right hand top corner where those 3 dots are. If you click on that, you're gonna also see it's the speed function. All right, so the shortened introduction. So that's quite easy. And then for the B7 he does a really cool trick. And if you compare the other versions, this is the only version where he does that. And the rhythm changes in 2 quarters. So if you tapped your foot before, you're going to see that you're going to tap now twice instead of 4 times. So we're starting with a B7, and the first hit I use the thumb. And for all the other hits it's the index or another finger, whichever you want to choose, but I use my index that goes up and down. So the third line of the tap. And so first is the B7, and then we have an A6, not an A7. It has a very different sound. A6, and Lightning uses his index finger. I think it's easier, for me anyway, to just drop down my third finger to get that A6, which is a bar of the first 4 strings. Then it goes back to E, back to the A6, and then we have a turnaround. Sorry. So let's do it one more time, more in speed. And we're ending on the E chord to start the singing. You can divide also by hitting a little bit harder on every foot tap. So start. So that's it for the introduction. Now the verse is practically the same, but longer of course, and I will sing it softly so you can hear what's going on. So we began on that E chord, which is muted after that. I'm going to Louisiana, I'm gonna get my mojo hand, I'm going to Louisiana, boys, I'm gonna get me a mojo hand. I wanna fix my woman so she can't have no other man. So the beginning is fairly easy, I think. I'm going to Louisiana, no guitar playing there, and then we have that upstroke. I'm going to Louisiana, and there we have the long and followed by the short upstroke. So in the 4th measure. You hear the difference? I'm going to Louisiana, boys, I'm gonna get me a mojo hand. Again, that long and short. He doesn't do it every time, but it's handy to know. I wanna fix my woman so she can't have no other man. And then we have a turnaround, which he uses every verse with vocals. So I'm using my thumb. Besides, you see in the tab the arrows. So if it's an upstroke, you use the finger. But and if it's a downstroke, normally the thumb. But there are instances here. The second beat, I use my index to go down. You can do that with the thumb too. And And if I do it in tempo, I mute in the 15th bar the second beat, that open E string. And you could say the double basses, which is in the 14th measure, the second beat, and there the second note. We have the two bass strings, those, and also in the last beat of that measure, 14, also the last note, it's played very softly. I mean this. And this. There you go. And every verse is the same. Only, I think, the third verse where I sing, I woke up this morning wondering what in the world am I gonna do. You can start singing slightly earlier because it's a lot of words to fit in that those number of beats. So you can do that a bit earlier. Of course, singing is something personal. You have to try out, record yourself, and listen with a critical ear. That's the best way to do and to learn that. So that covers the verses. Then we have 3 solos. And the first solo is not what you're not going to hear that in the version with the videotape. I took that from another version, which I found on Spotify. And it's kind of cool also. So it starts with a 2-beat tremolo, and then slide to the 3rd fret, 4th fret. It's a partial E7 chord, it's your D7 chord moved up, and the E string is opened. Now it helps that you use a thumb pick that has equal sides. You see, my other thumb picks, which I usually use, the John Pierce Vintage, it's difficult to do those tremolos because you see one side is more pointed and that will not work that well. So it works well with this kind. So you see I'm tilting my thumb a little bit so that the strings are attacked sideways. Of course you could replace that, but instead of the tremolos. So we have 2 beats of the tremolo and then a slide up to the E chord on the 3rd and the 4th fret, and then we have a triplet followed by bass, and we hit down the chord. And the moment I'm hitting that 4th string 2nd fret, I'm already forming my chords. When doing the tremolo, try to relax your shoulder and arm and let the movement come from your wrist. You can also move a little bit towards the bridge. There's more string tension there and the tremolo becomes a little bit easier. Yeah, that's a cool lick. I'm going to do that on 1 beat. And bend. So you have that. And then 2 triplets. And then bend the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And I'm using my 2 fingers to do that bend. It becomes a little bit easier. I let it rain a couple beats and then we follow by little boogie figure in for the 4 chord, the A. And I muted that. And then we're going back to the verse, well, the accompaniment of the verse. And then we have exactly the same as in the verse. B7. Notice the muting. And the E, the A. And then slide to the 15th fret. And then we have our turnaround. And our next verse, I lay down thinking, yes sir. So that's it for the first solo. I try to play it a little bit slower then, and then you. One thing I struggled with in the beginning was the 3rd bar. So the first beat has 4 notes, and the beat after that, the second beat, has only 2 notes. So you have the tendency of playing 4 notes. You can do that, but you'll have to be fast. Or as in the tap. You just have to take care that the 3rd beat, the open E string, is on the beat. Alright, that's it for the first solo. Then we have the second solo and the third solo. These are the solos that he performed in the video version, and which he used also in every other version or some variation of that. So we went to the, one thing, when we play the turnaround, when it's a verse with vocals that follows, we ended on, or began with, that E chord, I'm going to Louisiana, like that. With the solo, we're not going to do that, not any solo by the way. Then we do the turnaround. We have a pickup note instead of we simply play the open E string. So also with that solo, the second solo. So it goes to the 12th fret and he plays it all with his thumb. You could do alternate picking, of course, or use your index, but with the thumb it really sounds a bit harder if you use a thumb pick, by the way. And that pull off, so you pull off from the 12th to the 9th fret and then from the 9th fret to the open. Bass. He lets it ring. It doesn't ring long, but I used to. I muted it, and the reason is simple. If you play it open like that, you're gonna have to move with your thumb again to that 12th fret, and you're gonna see you're gonna often miss it. We're not Lightning Hopkins who played that a gazillion times. So if you use the mute like that. You see, my thumb is already here at the first string. That makes things easier. So we do that 2 times, and then we have the pull-off is done a little bit faster now, on the two pull-offs, and is followed by the thumb open string, like that, but a little bit faster. So we do that 4 times, 1 beat for every time we do that, and then we have that, well, that tapping section, sort of a break, and well, you have to use your imagination there. What I did is I let it ring a little bit and went down and did with this part of my hand on the fretboard, and then twice. And then we have double bass to go to the A, the 4 chords. So it's good to, well, at the beginning certainly, to tap your foot so that you stay in the rhythm. Because if you're, and then you're gonna wait a little bit too long or too soon, then you should be able, when you hear your performance, to tap here through. When you do that, it should be even. And then we go back to our to what's in the verse, and I indicated in the tap, well, in the previous solo, which I think so I did. Yeah, play bars 9 to 12 of the verse, etc. And by the way, the B7 section in the first solo is exactly the same as in the introduction. So that shouldn't give you any problems, I think. Okay, I'll play it one more time slowly, well, as slow as possible. And so on. Then we have the last solo. Again, we're starting with that pickup note, the open E string. Alright, so we're sliding to the 12th fret, and I do that with the 3rd finger. You did that turnaround. It's natural to do that with that finger, for me anyway. You could do that with your index finger, but, well, think how many times you slide up to the 12th fret with your index finger. I don't ever do that. So you're not used to it. So that's why I use my 3rd finger. I'm used to do that. It's the more, well, obvious thing to do. So, and then I go with the 3rd finger to the 15th fret and bend. So, again, everything with the temp. So that's obvious, it's all in the tap there. And then I do 1 tap more. And then he plays, well, he does that very often when he plays a solo in this style. It's exactly the same as, for example, in Baby Please Don't Go. So what we're doing, pull off with the index, and then we're sliding on the second string to the 5th fret. Open, and when we go to the B7, he doesn't do that, just a little fantasy of mine. Partial A7 chords, and I bent also the second string. Hammer on, pull off, pull off. Slide up to the 4th and 3rd fret of the 3rd and 2nd string. Oh, we're sliding up to the 4th and 3rd fret, the E7 chord. And I'll do that with a thumb. Well, that's it. Well, I'll do a little end tag. So I'm doing a simple turnaround with a little bit of right hand variation. Our D7 position moved up to the 4th fret, so it's E7 and then going down. Hammer on E chord, E7, E6, E7, and then slide to the 5th fret. 3rd string, 2nd fret, hammer on, pull off. And ending on an E9 chord is your E7, and you're gonna move your 3rd finger to the 1st string, 2nd fret. Lightning didn't use that chord. It's I call it the Brownie McGee chord. He used it a lot. There you go for Mojo hand.